All right, we are live, guys. Waiting to make sure the stream is catching up properly. And it looks like it is. And there we are. All right. Okay, so welcome to my channel. My name's Jason. And here I share with you guys my adventures learning and creating digital art. And occasionally, in the future anyway, I'll be doing some basic reviews on some of the stuff I've gotten recently and a little bit of gameplay, uh, streaming games anyway. But if you've been following the stream, I've been building a bunch of props for a diorama I'm planning on putting together soon. It's coming together nicely. It's stylized. It's kind of inspired by games like World of Warcraft, League of Legends. So it's got a very chunky art style to it. But this week I've been working on a simple tiling stone floor pattern. And I finished up the texture baking in Marmoset. And I did the base block out here in Blender and the sculpting and details in Zbrush. If you want to see any of that, I have it all archived on YouTube. So if you want to see some of that process, it's just hop over to my YouTube channel. I do have it all linked up as a playlist to make it a little simpler. But anyways, so let's get started with the texture process, shall we? I'm here in Blender and I've got my tiling pattern, not pattern, but basically just a bunch of planes. There's nothing going on here. It's just a bunch of planes. I have 9 of them. They're all UV'd, just a simple square plane. And I just did a quick export as an FBX on my brick floor tiles. And I'm just gonna hop over into Substance Painter here. I'm gonna save this first. I'm gonna close that out. Well, let me I'll just close Blender out. That way I have all my computer resources available. Yes, put this thing over. I'm testing out this standing balance board thing because I've been really curious about using a stand-up desk, and the desk I have isn't a real stand-up desk. It's just a tall desk. But I'm just kind of making do. Anyways, so let's go over here and we'll do new file. And first things first, I want to set my resolution. And I'm just going to jump straight to 4K since it's just a plane. And I'm going to be using Blender later to render everything. So I'm going to do OpenGL because that's what Cycles likes. Also, so does Marmoset toolbag. I'm going to select my mesh. And I'm going to add the textures that I baked in Marmoset into my project file. And there's nothing in there, or it looks like there's nothing because it's just a plane. And it's not double-sided, so if you flip it upside down, it's just clear. Sometimes that might throw you for a curve if you're just doing a simple texture plane. Then I'm just going to select the textures I imported. A normal, world space. I didn't need an ID map. I don't have one. And then my curvature, position. Yep, that's a position. And the thickness. I don't even think I'll need thickness, but so I think that looks pretty good. It's a little repetitive, but that's okay. This is to be honest, this is the third time I've really tried to make a tiling texture. I don't know why I had such a hard time learning it. it kicked my butt for a while. I just kept it. I couldn't get it right. I've tried a lot of times. I've done it. Um, I've been trying to teach myself how to do it anyway for a while, and I did. I failed a lot. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, so yeah, let's just get started with a simple floor texture. I'm not like super pro guy with Substance, but it's pretty straightforward how it works. I really enjoy using it. We'll just hop over to our layers. I'm gonna just delete this one, and it's basically a similar approach that you use to building your models. You know, you start off with the base block out, keep things simple, get the silhouette, so to speak, and then from there you build up the medium details, and then you go to the light the small details, and then the micro details. Okay, and so we have our fill layer, and I'm just gonna select. I want this just to affect the color. I don't want it to affect anything else. So just leaving the color, and I'm going to use one of these brown ones, maybe this concrete, to select my color with the color picker. And I'm gonna make it a lot darker actually. Add that down. Make it real dark. But I want it to be kind of like a sandstone color. So real basic right now. And then we'll do another fill layer. And same thing, I'm just gonna make sure it's not affecting anything else except for the color. And with my color picker, I'm using this concrete as my color swatch. I'm just gonna make a little bit lighter color than the first base color. Well, speaking of which, let me I don't need to do base color. Um, um, I guess you could just call this mix. I don't know. Basically, what I want to do is I want it to just add a variety to the actual base. So I'm just gonna right click on that, add a black mask. And there's a couple ways you can do this, but I really like using the generators, like the Uber, the mask editor. It's like the Uber generator. It gives you the options for everything as far as what you can manipulate. And basically, I just do this for the most of the texture process. I lean heavily on the curvature, so we'll just crank that curvature up. Let me zoom in so we can really see what's going on. All right. And I want this to mostly hit the big parts of the model. So instead of hitting the sharp edges, I just want it to kind of spread across pretty much the whole thing. I'm gonna just slide all these. We should be able to. And again, this is just to get a variety in the color right for now. It looks like that's hitting my palette. This looks unusually shiny. Leave it there. Maybe there. I don't know. Let me see what that's. Environment. I want to pick a different one real quick. Try this one. There we go. That's kind of like giving us a better representation, I think. A little too dark though. Yeah. Try this one. Nope, too dark. Alrighty, if that's not bright enough, we'll just do this one. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, back to the texture. And I'm just gonna add a filter. And I'm just gonna use the blur. And I am gonna turn warp on, crank that up a bit. It's kind of hard to see. It's very subtle. Maybe if I just click. Basically, I'm just trying to spread color out through because stones aren't like one consistent color, you know. They like kind of have different colors varying throughout it. And I am going to turn the opacity down just a bit. I feel like this one isn't as bright, but I feel like it gives us a better idea of what it's gonna look like. It tends to look a lot brighter when you render it. Let's give it a quick render. Yeah, let's not enough variety in the color there. So what we can do is we can, for the texture, when I use these black and, or maybe there's clouds. Crank it up so we can really see this. Try multiply. There we go. See what it looks like when we render it. That's better. And I don't know why it does that. For some reason it turns black, but this is not black. It's a lighter brown. I'm probably just going to do one more fill layer. Same thing. Want it to be based off of that. And I am going to leave this one a little bit lighter. The good old mask editor. There, now you can kind of see what's really going on. I do want it to look like sandstone, but I wanted the color to be spread out. So I'm gonna make this darker actually. Oh, oh. Let me erase that. For some reason it's... There we go. Black man. Generator. Mask builder. There we go. I want this just to be darker. We're still just building the base color of the layer. And I want to drop down to my curvature. Keep it on edges. I don't want it to be on any of the fine detail. I want this to just be kind of overall the big body and flatter surfaces. I'm gonna spread it out using the sliders over the big stuff. And then I'm gonna drop the opacity down to 50. Okay. And that just gives us a simple base color. It's basically the same color, just different tones and shades. And they kind of are spread out depending on how harsh the edges are in that area. And we'll just call this one base color mix. Mix 2. And I'll do another fill layer. And same thing, black mask. There are definitely other ways to do it. I definitely have seen some more advanced users do some cooler stuff. But I find that this way is the easiest for me to understand. It's kind of is, if you're like familiar with Photoshop at all, it's a very similar concept. So it's easier to grasp if you're like me anyway. So now I'm going to focus on bringing out some of the details. So we'll hop over to the curvature again. Now I want it to kind of hit the medium aspects of it instead of like the surface. I don't want it to hit all the big cracks, but I don't want it to hit the fine cracks either. Mostly the medium. Looks like I need to tone it down just a bit more. And I'll drop the opacity down. Yeah, I recommend just doing kind of playing around with everything, moving the sliders around, just seeing what everything does. That's basically what I did. I mean, I did watch a couple other tutorials. Algorithmic's website has like some of the best and easy to follow. Give that a little test render, see what it looks like. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, I'm not going for like, I mean, it is a very simple texture, so I just wanted a little bit of color variation, mostly in tints, tones, and shades. Depending on what kind of stone look you're going for, you could really mix in like some blues and greens, but I'm trying to keep it more towards a tan, brown, and yellow. Right, and we'll call this, we'll just call it medium edges. And I could just duplicate this to keep things easy. And we'll turn the color, make it a little bit more yellow maybe. Not necessarily more yellow, but just more saturated. Make it a bit lighter. And then on the, we'll call this fine edges. And we'll switch to the, we'll crank up the curvature opacity. And I want this to pretty much not hit any of the big stuff. Really want it to hit the finer, just the real sharp edges. And this one I need to jump back to, and I need to turn that opacity back. We'll turn that down just a little more, maybe 25. Yeah, there's no exact number. It's, you know, it's all up to your artistic taste and your preferences. Like, I'm just trying to separate the surface of the stone with the color and the edges. And it's doing a pretty good job of that. I think I want to turn that one down to a little bit more before. Try to render that, see what it looks like. This little quick test. You guys hear any background noise on my apartment's getting painted? I guess they decided it needed a paint job. I thought the place looked pretty good, but I guess that's how they keep it looking good. They paint it regularly. I guess maybe every year or so. So if you hear some banging around and stuff, or like a motor running, it's their paint sprayer thing outside. That looks pretty good. All right, moving on. That's pretty good for a base, I think. So now what I'll do is I'll make a folder, and then I'll just select all of these and put them in that folder. And this will be like, I'll just call this the base. And then pretty much whatever you apply that to, if it's has a lot of surface noise like this and edges, it'll mimic it identically. That's what I love about Substance Painter. And that's why I want to learn Substance Designer too, because you can, once you create a material, you can use it again on a texture or something you want to have the same appearance, and it'll be consistent on everything. And we'll just start a new layer, and I will just try to do a little bit more. I don't want to say advanced stuff because I'm not an advanced user, but go back to the good old mask editor. That's my go-to. But instead of the curvature, I'm going to try to use the position. And or do I want to use the, I can never remember if I'm use the world space normal or the position. I think it's position. First of all, let me get a different color. Or I wanted to overlay everything here. No, that's not what I want. Normal. Don't want it to affect any of that. I'll just pick a little bit of a different, let's go with this brown. And I've only done a little bit of messing around with the position map and the world space normal. So it kind of depends what you want to do. Blending mode. Yeah, I want it to go from top to bottom. Huh. Why isn't that doing anything? Supposed to, when you alt click on the map, that'll show you what it's doing. For some reason. Oh, position gradient opacity. Hello. Now I know what I was like. It was at 0. Let's bring the brightness way down. Probably bring that opacity 50 halfway. And basically with this you can kind of fake height in it. I mean the height information is there, but it's uniform. So if I add a paint layer, and let's see, be set to white. Anything that's white, brush do I have? That's the brush, should be fine. Or let's get a, what? Let me just go here. Brushes. Get something kind of like this dirt, maybe. You can just kind of, ooh. Give it a little bit more, see what's that? just a little bit of variety in the and just tone that down so it's not so harsh. I'm actually gonna, I think if you hit X, it switches it. So instead of adding, it'll hide it now. Because that was a little more than I wanted. And this is just, it's basically erasing it when it's like this. That was a little more than I was asking for. There we go. Let's see what that looks like. Do a little render test. Come on. There we go. Yeah, that looks pretty decent. Might be a little too detailed. I should probably tone that other layer down a little more, or turn the opacity down on this. Maybe to 25. It is supposed to be a little more on the stylized side of things. Basically, to fix that, we can just kind of turn these back up, maybe to 50. Oops. Because typically that's kind of what you want to do with stylized stuff. You want to really exaggerate the highlights and the edges. It's not, generally there's not a lot of micro detail or fine detail. There can be, I mean, but if you look at like games like in Overwatch, it's a perfect example of how they it's simple textures, but they're very well they paint it so well. Their arts team is just, they nail, they've got stylized art down. Like they make things just stand out without adding a ton of unnecessary detail. One thing I forgot that I could probably do is, if I go here, make another fill layer, which is good to do for stones, is, or I'm not, go there, my good old black mask, Mr. Generator there, mask editor, and we'll hop into the curvature, turn the opacity up, and instead of the edges, we'll do cavities. And you can just pretty much leave the settings. You can tweak it a little bit, but that just gives the cracks and the edges between the bricks, and even like the divots, a little more punchy detail. I think that'll work. Try doing a render, a real render. See, we want the clear color. we want to do that thing. I'm not even sure what all of this does, to be honest. Shader, environment. We'll do anti-aliasing, color correction, glare, a little vignette. I don't think there's going to be much glare because I don't have any. It's pretty rough. It's not a very. I don't want it to be a reflective or shiny material. See if we can get a more interesting. Yeah, there now you can see it looks like sandstone kind of. It almost looks like gold, which is not what I was going for, but I just go from the top. I think maybe just like the top angle, the way to go. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And 19 to 1200. Turn that up to about 20. Up to about 30. We'll override. We'll let it do its thing. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I like the way it looks. My intention was to get like a sandstone kind of looking texture. I think I pulled it off fairly well. Save this out as soon as it's done rendering. And it's done. We'll do a save. Now we'll save this one. Render. Oops. We'll exit out of that. And now to save this out as a smart material, oops. I'll just drag that in there. And then this was what did I call this one? Oh, what did I make this one? Oh, let's call it mask, paint mask. Need to learn how to use a keyboard, huh? Something to keep in mind with any type of paint mask that you do, it basically only is it applies to the model that you're actually painting on. So even though I save this out, like here, I'll call this sandstone. And then save it as a smart material. And there it is there. Oops, sandstone. Now I have my own smart material. That's all you do. You have to put everything. Oops, I did that wrong. Let me. You have to put everything in that folder. So now even though there's a folder, you can have subfolders in a folder, just similar to Photoshop. But with the paint layers, you'll have to delete it. I'm sure there's a way you can do it differently. I just haven't figured it out yet. Um, obviously, if you're painting a different texture, like if you are doing a completely different pattern, the paint won't necessarily be where you want it on a different pattern. For example, I painted only on this brick and then on this brick. But if I use a pattern that had totally different bricks, like maybe they were circles, it might not work. But all you have to do when you apply this smart material to that next one is delete that paint layer. You just boop, delete it. So now once you have all your things in one folder, and you name it, you just right click, drop down here to create smart material. You hit create smart material. And there it is. Wish I could zoom in on that. Maybe it'll, there. And you can see it just shows you what the masks are doing, because it adjusts to whatever your next material, your next object that you bring in. It adjusts to its normals, all the maps that you bake for it. So once you bake your maps, this will apply properly to it. That's how all the smart materials work. They're completely reliant on your normal maps, your curvature, your ambient occlusion, all that stuff. All right, now that we got this done, I want to save first of all. For some reason, I used to not save my substance projects, and that's just a bad idea. Yeah, we'll call this tiling stone floor. 01, because I might make a couple. This is my first go at making one that I'm going to use, so I'll probably try to make a couple varieties of these, just so I have something to pick from when I build my diorama. Okay, and then let that save for a minute. And now I'll just export the textures. I do have my own texture setup, and I have a few too many things in it. Like, you don't need displacement and emissive. I actually have a couple for Cycles Blender. Like, this is the basic one you need. It has your base color, roughness, metallic, your OpenGL normal map, and the displacement. I don't really use displacement. I don't like adding a bunch of extra geometry because it just makes your render times get even longer. But it does have its place if you know how to use it. I just don't know how to use it properly. But anyways, so I'm going to export all those textures, and you need to Substance Painter always defaults to where you have Substance Painter installed. So I don't want it text. I want it to go to my project file. So tiling stone floor. I'll just make a new folder and we'll call this SB textures. And then export. And since I don't have I don't have a displacement, it might say that, it might give me a little warning. Yeah, see, with some warnings, and you can look here to see it didn't give me a displacement map because I didn't ask for one. I didn't put one in my texture settings. And there we go. Stone floor is done. I might come back and tweak the color a little bit. It's a little too yellow. Or maybe not. I kind of like it. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like when I bring it into Cycles. The materials tend to look a little different from one software package to the other. Cycles is pretty good at getting it close to Substance Painter, but they always look a little bit different, I've noticed. Even in Marmoset Toolbag, it looks just slightly different colors sometimes. But that's going to be it for today. On Monday, I'll bring this into Blender and do some quick test renders in there in cycles. And after that, on Monday also, I'll start doing a wall. Probably going to be very similar to this. I'll either do a wall or some pillars. I'm going to do a combination of wood and stone walls for the little diorama I'm working on. So if you want to check that out, hit that subscribe button. And that way, as soon as I go live, you'll be notified. If you like the video, hit the like button. That way I know what kind of content people want to see. And also tomorrow, I'll be game streaming World of Warcraft. Not necessarily to show you how great I am, because I'm pretty mediocre, if that. But I'm just kind of gonna be messing around, looking at stuff to get ideas for things that I might be able to make as like fan art for practice. Because I really, that's the art style I like to emulate, and some of the stuff in there would be pretty fun to make, I think. So yeah, I'll be like just hopping around looking for things to model as fan art, maybe put a little bit of my own spin on it. So yeah, tune in for that. Feel free to drop in. If you guys have any questions or comments, drop them in the comments below. That's going to do it for today. Thanks for stopping by, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good day. Thanks. See you next time, guys.